Hey kings, queens, and in-betweens. My name is Guity, and I've got my unicorn ears on today, which means stuff's getting pretty serious. Okay, so now that my green screen is back, let's get this pony show on the road. I want to talk today about censorship. So I did a video a couple of days ago, and the title of which was Getting Back to Normal. Now you cannot find that video anywhere on YouTube because it was deleted immediately by the algorithm. I don't know if it was the hashtags that I had in the title, which were hashtag AstraZeneca, hashtag COVID-19, hashtag Bill Gates, and I think hashtag vaccine, and of course hashtag ambiguity. Now, I made a point in that video that I didn't actually know specifically how the YouTube algorithm works, and whether or not that video would get taken down or not. As it turns out, it got taken down immediately. I don't know if there's anyone out there that does know that would like to comment below. That'd be fantastic. I don't know if the algorithm has the ability to scan through the entire video, because I do know that it automatically generates captions. I don't do those captions, but I know that when I go to view these videos later on, that there is an option to turn on captions, and they're generally pretty good. So I don't know if the algorithm is going through the a virtual transcript of the episode, the show, whatever, and looking for keywords and discriminating based on those. Because if that's what's happening, then despite any context or tone, if you're using sarcasm or what, any kind of device, the algorithm's not going to account for that. I can guarantee that much. It's just going to look for keywords, and automatically your content is gone. It's bye-bye. Now, I did put in an appeal. I haven't checked on that. Hopefully they get back to me. I'm sure a human being is reviewing it as we speak. Regardless, I'm going to be posting it on alternate streaming sites. Odyssey is one of them. If you're not familiar with Odyssey, I'll have links below. That's an up-and-coming competitor to YouTube. Also, I'll probably look into putting it on BitChute. But, in saying all that, I'd like today to talk about censorship, because I made a point in that last video of, saying that there was a genuine fear that the video would get deleted by YouTube. And the argument that people often have with these platforms like Twitter and YouTube, Facebook, is that they're all private entities, and that it's their prerogative to ban content, to ban users, and to censor people. And it's a fair argument. I'm not going to deny that. They are private entities. In saying that, some of these entities, these corporations, they have become so big and in a lot of ways essential. They've become essential services. They allow for people across the planet, across the globe, if you believe in a globe planet. Just joking, I'm not a flat earther. And, there's a good chance that will get my video deleted just by saying flat earth. These social media platforms have become, in essence, essential services. Much like the, telephone services are, or electricity services. And an argument can be made that a telephone company, or the electricity company, or the gas company, whatever it may be, that these companies that perform these essential services, there is no onus placed on these companies to monitor who's using the resources and for what purposes they're using them for. And a good example of that is the telephone companies. Now, in the past, before the explosion of the internet and social media, if people wanted to organize, if they wanted to revolt or conduct acts of terrorism, the telephone would have been a good tool to use. And I don't think in the history of telephonic communication has anyone ever come out and said, AT&T needs to monitor the traffic and the content of the conversations being held over its network. That's insane talk. We also know that it was happening anyway. That's what Edward Snowden brought to light, was that the NSA and alphabet agencies all around the world are in fact monitoring our telephone conversations. And they are looking for buzzwords, keywords that set off alarm bells and supposedly help them track terrorists. So with that being said, it seems almost a little convenient that all this pressure is now being placed on platforms like YouTube and Twitter and Facebook to monitor content seemingly at their discretion. The government apparatus is merely dictating that they perform these acts of self-censoring. They're not really too implicit about what that entails. They're just sort of saying, you guys need to sort your stuff out, okay? And then putting all the what do you call it? My brain is dead. All the expectations and responsibility. Oh my God, there's the word I was looking for. All the responsibility is on the tech companies. So they in turn now have carte blanche to pick and choose what you can and cannot say, and what narratives are acceptable and unacceptable. Now, my video yesterday was mainly to do with the AstraZeneca. God, I don't even know if I can even talk about what the video was about without this video getting censored and deleted off YouTube. It's a minefield. The video was about the AstraZeneca vaccine. That's all I'll say, okay? Let's see if that's enough to set off the alarm bells and the red flags for their algorithm. When the president of the United States, or now ex-president, I'm talking about Donald Trump. Y'all heard of him. Y'all know who he is. Love him or hate him, he was the democratically elected president of the United States. And for 4 years, while he was in office, he said some of the most inane, stupefying, batshit insane stuff that the leader of any country has ever said before. And let's be honest, who gave an F and a Jeff about Twitter 4 or 5 years ago. Nobody cared. Twitter is the stupidest platform. I've been on Twitter. Well, I've had a Twitter account since day one. You know, back when you had to get invited to it. Someone had to send you an invite link. And there were no smartphones. I know. Can you believe it? A world without smartphones. You had an old Nokia or whatever. And what you did was, to tweet from your cellular phone, you would send in an SMS message to some number that was, I think, connected to your account, whatever, yada, yada, yada. And then that would post your tweet on the website. And I remember the first time using it thinking, what is the point of this? This is stupid. And I didn't use it. I never used it. I had no use for it. I was on MySpace back then. I was a little late coming to Facebook. Didn't get a Facebook until 2008. And then was off it by like 2009. Came back to it in 2012. And now I'm off it again, finally. They're like drugs, these things. They are. There's that old saying, if you're not paying for something, then you are the product. And these tech companies have found a way to commoditize us. Commoditize? They found a way to make a ton of money off of our data, our likes and dislikes, and in return, they're telling us what we can and can't say. What is acceptable forms of speech? What's hate speech? What's right think and wrong think? I mean, I hate to bring up 1984, but that's what this stuff looks like. And again, you're going to say, oh, but they're private companies. Yeah, they're private companies, but they have become essential services. Everybody has a Facebook. I mean, if you want one, you can have one. There's nothing stopping you, except now there is. Now Donald Trump, ex-president of the free world, banned on every platform. And you might say, well, it was for a good reason. He incited violence that led to riots at the Capitol and the deaths of 4 people. And again, I would, and we're not going to argue about that, but for 4 years, they let him spout his insanity. And it was never an issue. I'm sure if you track Twitter's share price, let's go back even further to when Donald Trump first started campaigning and really ramping up his online presence, especially his Twitter presence. You go back and track Twitter's share price, I'm sure it's going to do a nice little one of these where it's going up and up and up as Trump gains popularity. And then when the tables, slightly turn on them and the message comes from the big boys up top saying, old Sleepy Joe, it's time for Sleepy Joe to have his turn. They click their fingers, they wiggle their noses like some kind of witch, and Trump's out, Joe's in. And the left, oh my God, the left. I'm on the left, okay? I've got a unicorn hat. I'm a trans, whatever I am. Look at me. Hello. Hi. I'm on the left, and I am not for this censorship. People on the left applauding. Yes. Oh, yes. Thank God Donald Trump's gone off social media. The world's going to be such a better place now. And maybe it is in the short term. The short term, repercussions of deleting him from those spaces, it may be quite positive, but the long-term repercussions, and I'm talking 10 years down the track, is they now have the ability, the power has been vested into them to pick and choose who can stay and who can go. They're like the claw in Toy Story. The claw, it chooses who will stay and who will go. Bad impression of those three-eyed green guys, but you know what I'm saying. And Jack Dorsey, CEO of Twitter, Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook, whoever the hell owns... What's the other one? I'm forgetting one. It doesn't matter. Ooh, low battery. We'll be fine. Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Dorsey, these guys, they're not political scientists. They're not anything but computer nerds. And now they're in charge of telling you what you can and can't say. And that's terrifying because, I mean, have you seen The Social Network? That is 100% accurate. Jesse Eisenberg, phenomenal performance. Andrew Garfield was great in those Spider-Man movies. I don't want those people telling the whole planet what's okay to say and what's not okay to say. Because they haven't studied, anything relevant to that conversation, the conversation of conversations. What should and shouldn't be said. And for a country like America, there is no what should and shouldn't be said. There is a thing. It's called the First Amendment, and it allows for free speech. There are some limits on that. Obviously, I think there's, rules against hate speech, and I guess that gets into murky territory because who are the arbiters of what is and isn't hate speech? But again, that's for a court of law to decide, not for these tech oligarchs who are so disconnected from reality. For starters, they live in, cyberspace. That's where their head is at 24/7. They wake up and they're thinking about algorithms. They're robots. They're effing and jeffing robots. They'd have to be to succeed in that line of work. And that's not a criticism necessarily. It's just, it's just sort of the way it is. And again, I don't think people who are like that, who are inclined to think so robotically, should be the arbiters of and tastemakers of speech. Because that's when you start to go down a really slippery slope. And we're going down it. You can see it with compelled speech. Even before the whole Trump debacle and him being deplatformed and all these people being deplatformed and Parler being taken down. Look at what happened to Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson was relatively unknown, seemingly successful. Not even seemingly. He was quite successful in his field. He's a teacher, taught at Harvard. I think he still has tenure at Harvard. Has written a couple of books, one which went on to become extremely popular, his 12 Rules for Life. And then the whole thing about him coming out against this compelled speech law in Canada blows up. And he becomes, an overnight sensation, for better or for worse. Everyone knows who Jordan Peterson is. And what was the thing that he did that was so wrong? Because he can't go anywhere. He can't go and perform lectures without. And he sells out. People love him. People are nuts for him. I love him. He's great, And if you haven't listened to him, go and listen to him. He's a smart dude. And whatever you think about what happened with his life at the moment and the the benzodiazepines, forget all that stuff. He's an intelligent guy, but he can't go and do a lecture anywhere without people protesting, calling him transphobic, bigoted, racist, white supremacist, all because he was opposed to laws being changed that force the way essentially people think. Because we talk about it being compelling speech and sort of directing the way that we have to utilize our speech. But our speech comes from our thoughts. So before we even vocalize what it is we want to say, it's internalized. And how do you police thought? Again, it comes back to George Orwell in 1984. And I hate, because when you make those comparisons, people think you're being over dramatic, it's hyperbolic. If you read 1984, it doesn't feel like we're living in that world. And of course, that was a hyper stylized book written almost 100 years ago. But it's the ideas in that book about the way institutions like governments and now these big tech as they're called, and the ability they have to control the way our minds work. And that's not an experiment that any of us should want to live in, where a very small handful of group of people are able to dictate the thoughts that go on in your brain before they even become speech. Because without that freedom, we're going to turn out just like Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg. We will be the robots.